Hello and welcome to WriterSpeak, a program dedicated to the written word and those who produce it. Today in the studio, I'd like to welcome Camilla Gray-Nelson. Welcome, Camilla.
Thanks, Jeannie. It's great to be here.
She has written quite an original book titled Lipstick and the Leash, a dog training a woman's way.
That's it.
And it has been such an original book that Camilla has received many awards. Please tell us about them.
Well, I'm very excited to say, especially as a first-time author, to have won 4 national awards so far, the most prized of which was the Book of the Year, awarded by the Dog Writers of America. And that's a group of my peers, and to be recognized by them as the best book of 2012, all categories, was a real thrill. I was able to go back to New York City and receive the award in Manhattan in February, so just a thrill all the way around.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about your professional background, in how your professional background has helped you write this book.
Well, I'm not sure it's directly correlated. My professional background, after college and grad school, I actually worked for the government in public affairs, did a lot of radio and television, did a lot of writing, and I suppose that writing experience helped me when it came time to write my own book. But life has a way of taking a path that you really don't see, you really can't predict, and so I turned my hobby, which was training dogs, into a profession 23 years ago, and that's what I've been doing full time ever since, and built my business based on dog training. My background in growing up on a farm with animals all of my life is really what gave me the skills to become the dog trainer that I am, in the natural approach that I take to training dogs.
I'm sure all of your background helped you to make this fantastic book. I was pretty pleased to see that you had 2 praises by 2 renowned people, Jan Wall and John Provost, who was in Lassie. Is that correct?
Yes, he was Timmy in Lassie in the 50s or 60s, whenever that show was on television. That's right. Jan has become a friend and a client. Actually, I've trained her personal dogs, and so she is extremely familiar with my approach to training, and it changed her life, according to her, and she was very eager to write an acknowledgement and a recommendation for my Lipstick and the Leash book. And I wanted to reach out to Timmy before the book was published, because in the book I talk about Lassie and what I call the Lassie syndrome, and I wanted to make sure he saw that and was on board with it, and he gave me a wonderful recommendation in the book, so I was thrilled.
That was really great that you got those praises.
Yep.
What inspired you to write a book just for women and dog training instead of a general dog training book?
That's a really good question, and it goes to the core of why I did write Lipstick and the Leash. After training professionally maybe 15 years, I've been at it about 23 now, but after about 15 years I realized, oh my gosh, there's a pattern here. 3 out of 4 clients that walk through my door are women, not men. And more interesting than that, Jeannie, was that they all had virtually the same problem. They could train their dogs to sit, to heel, to down, but they couldn't get their dog to mind them when the dog was distracted. So they really couldn't control the dog. The dog didn't take them seriously. And I knew why. None of them did. It was time to write a book about it.
And I know you said a lot has to do with body language. So give us an example of that.
Body language is a big part of communicating your status, therefore your level of control, to your dog. Because dogs speak to each other in the only language they know. I call it dog talk. That's why my license says dog talk. And body language is a huge part of that. If a dog is fidgety or bolty instead of standing still, giving good eye contact, each of those communicate different things and different levels of power, one dog to another. The top dog, for example, will always try to stand as tall as he can. He may not be the tallest dog in the group, but he thinks he is. and he stands tall and erect, has direct eye contact, and is very quiet and thoughtful, and always has a plan for action, and is not afraid to follow through. That essence of strength can be communicated through your body or clouded by the wrong body language.
I know you have a chapter about fidgeting, which is body language. Tell us a little bit about fidgeting.
Fidgeting is one of the 3 sub-elements of what I call a woman's kryptonite, referring back to the superhero Superman, who was all-powerful except when he was exposed to the mysterious fictional element called kryptonite, which rendered him weak in the knees. Women have the same thing. Fidgeting is one of the sub-elements, and I don't just mean physical fidgeting. Physical fidgeting in itself says to the animal, and to others, by the way, I'm not sure of myself. I'm a little nervous, self-conscious, not really firmly planted in my plan. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And any lack of confidence is read by the dog as weakness. And dogs do not follow weakness. They follow strength. Strength conveyed in the proper way, not the way most women have been trying to communicate it. Also why I wrote Lipstick and the Leash. But fidgeting is but one of those fatal flaws that will cut your power off at the knees.
And really just one human being talking to another human being. If one is fidgeting, you automatically think that is a nervous person.
Indeed. I always stress, as I talk to all of my clients, I'm teaching you dog training, but it's much, much more than dog training. Once I teach you the skills to get what you want, have power and influence in the natural way over your dog, it's not a great leap to use those skills with children, with employees, with others in your social surroundings.
I was wondering about
in your relationship at home.
Whether it was similar to child training, dog training.
Well, you having the background in early childhood education, as I understand, you can see all of these similarities. When I talk about the importance of staying calm and having a plan and organization during the day when you're dealing with young children, the same is true with dogs. Stay calm, be focused, follow through and get what you asked for. But once you raise your voice and once you play the aggression card before it's necessary or at all, the dog or the child does not take you seriously. You're just one more uncertain person trying to make up for the lack of confidence and skill by being forceful.
And I know that you reiterate to not teach dog training through dominance and intimidation.
The word dominance, technically, yes, you want to outrank your dog, but the word dominance carries with it the mind image of someone alpha rolling and standing over, because truly, domination and confrontation, aggression, are all signs of weakness if they're the first card played. They're absolutely a sign of weakness. It is the wannabe, not the true leader, that goes there. It's the bully on the play yard that does that. The bullies are always children with a lack of self-confidence. Truly confident individuals, they know what they're going to do. They know who they are. They have their plan, and a plan gives them power.
Now, when you say learn to speak dog, what do you mean by that?
The challenge for my clients is to get them controlling their dog when we work together without uttering a single English word. And we do that through body language, contact, sounds, movement, eye contact. And the more you learn to depend on that and not to rely on a lot of verbiage, which the dog doesn't understand, it's just a bunch of noise. What we're going to find more useful with a dog is learning how to set a boundary. It is about boundaries. It's not about sit. It's not about sit. It's about don't misbehave. There's a difference there. And that's what I teach in the book and in my classes at my brick and mortar business in Sonoma County, Dairy Dell Canine. It's in Petaluma. That's where people come when they're geographically able to come to me. That's where they come and get one-on-one instruction.
And tell me about Dairy Dell, it's called?
Dairy Dell.
Dairy Dell. How many employees work at Dairy Dell?
I employ 20 individuals at Dairy Dell. Some work in the kennel, some work in the dog park for our daycare dogs. I have 4 trainers plus myself and office personnel, and it totals about 20 employees.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I use the lessons in Lipstick and the Leash in terms of leadership to lead my company. That's how versatile this information is.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think that certain type personality people or women should have a certain breed of dog?
Also a very good question, Jeannie. Yes and no. Well, not a breed. And what's really clear and misunderstood by the general public is that a golden retriever is always calm and a border collie is always hyper. And none of that's true. Nature makes a variety of personalities in every breed. They make a variety of personalities in people. What I do in my matchmaking work, which is a whole different subject, although I address it in the beginning stages in Lipstick, is I try to determine what a person's natural level of power and leadership is based on their personality. And I have a method where I analyze and predict canine personality as well, and I try to suggest that a person with more natural power than their dog be in that relationship, and I help those people who have less power and the dog has more power, because that's a whole different type of training that has to happen.
Do you actually do matchmaking in your business where a woman would come to you and you get to know them and you say, you know, I think this dog will really work for you?
I don't necessarily recommend a particular dog, but I do matchmaking consultations all the time where we discuss what they're looking for. I analyze their personality. I show them what personality of dog to look for and how to recognize it when they see it.
That must be so rewarding.
It's so rewarding, and I actually have an event coming up at Dairy Dell, if I could mention it, on May 19th. It's my first annual Dogapalooza, Adopt-a-thon and Vaccination Clinic. But one of the demonstrations I'm giving at Dogapalooza is canine personality assessment. So you can see me actually do that in real time.
Well, that probably has helped you with any of the hard cases that you have come across. Is there one of the hardest cases that you had that stands out for you and how you were able to solve that?
I'm not sure I solved it, but I do remember my hardest case. It's when I was still in my original building, the dairy barn that I refurbished into my board and train, which is why we're called Dairy Dell, by the way. It was a golden retriever who was very, very willful, and very kind of explosive in her mannerisms. And she was owned by a family who was also very emotional and explosive. So it was like nitro and glycerin when you put them together. And the family was a family of, I'll politely say, loud talkers. What I really mean is yellers. And so they would be too emotional, too aggressive. And the dog responded in kind, because that's what dogs do. They go back at you. So it was a real struggle, number one, to train the dog, but always the struggle, as you know, Jeannie, it's in training the operator, because it's always pilot error, and we're training owners more than we're training the dogs. And it was difficult to get them to have a different personality. It's very difficult to do that. But I tried to teach them individual skills, and hopefully they've used it. That was many years ago, and hopefully that dog went home to a better situation. That's all we can hope for, a better situation for the dog. It is
really similar to teaching parenting skills. You can't get very far with children, it seems, until the parents have learned proper parenting skills. And I imagine it's the same with dog owners, that they need to learn proper skills.
Because a dog simply responds. A dog is a respondent. And depending on how we deal with the dog is going to be responding to us and our actions, our emotions. Teaching the proper skills starts an upward spiral in improved behavior. If the respondent is, if the person is giving the wrong messages with the wrong energy, you can see how that spiral goes down, and the dog is responding each time, but responding to bad technique. So it's very tricky, but so rewarding when you succeed, so rewarding.
You talk about some lessons that you learned from your mother. Tell us some of those important lessons.
I always say my mother taught me more about dog training than anyone, and she never trained a dog herself. And what I mean by that is she lived with a very dominant male, my father, who was charming and delightful and smart and witty and successful, but very willful. He was an only child, liked his way, like many of the dogs that come in. And she was really smart about, number one, not disagreeing with or correcting my father in public or in front of us children, because she respected his ego, just like I need to respect the ego of a willful, dominant dog. So I make sure that we keep those little discussions private between us, but when they do something right, I praise publicly. So I correct privately, I praise publicly. I learn from her the power of praise, empathy, respecting your partner. You got to respect the dog. He's a legitimate citizen of Earth, and you have to respect him for what he is and learn how to make what you want them to do more pleasurable to them than any alternative. I learned that from my mom.
We really can learn lessons from our mothers.
And our dogs.
I guess so.
Yes, indeed.
Tell us some of the myths that people believe about dog training.
About dogs and training. Oh, let me count the ways. Many, many, many. Especially the one that prevails. Dogs have a desire to please their owners. Not true. Dogs have no desire to please you in and of itself. They are out for number one themselves. Now, think about what we do when a dog does something, though, that we've asked. We tell them, good boy. We pet them. We give them a cookie. That's why they're repeating that behavior. Not because we're smiling, but because when we're happy, we do something good for them. But they have no desire to please us. They don't obey out of love. They will not grow out of bad behavior. This I hear all the time about puppies. Oh, just let him do it. He's just a puppy. He'll grow out of it. No, he doesn't grow out of it. That behavior just gets bigger and bigger and heavier as the dog grows. So if you don't want your Great Dane on your lap on the sofa when he's full grown, you might want to control that a little bit when he's a puppy. That kind of thing.
Well, this is really helpful that you're giving us all these tips. I know that everybody will have to read your book in order to fully get the understanding. You provide seminars and workshops for different organizations. Can you tell us about a few?
Well, for organizations that want to sponsor or workshops that I sponsor myself at Dairydale, very recently I did a What is My Dog Saying body language seminar at Green Dog Rescue up in Healdsburg. Very successful, very well attended, and I teach people really how dogs speak to each other and how to recognize what they're saying in their body language at home. I do those kinds of workshops. And the one that I'm really excited about coming up at Dairydale is My Alpha Girl Weekend. It's my first annual, and it's a 3-day workshop for women across the country who can fly in and have leadership training. Part 1, the dog. Lessons in Leadership, Part 1, the dog. Learn how to learn all these skills that we just talked about that they can then apply in other areas of their life. So they don't even have to bring a dog. I provide the dogs. That's going to be the second weekend in October. It's that Columbus Day weekend at Dairydale. More information coming on the website when it's available. But you're the first to hear the grand announcement of My Alpha Girl Weekend.
Well, it sounds extremely original. I don't know how you think up all these amazing workshops that I know you've been presenting.
It's very exciting. I just love helping people help their dogs, and I love helping the dogs help people live a better life. I mean, what could be better as a profession than to do that for the world? I think it's just fantastic.
Is there anything else that you wanted us all to know about the Dairydale Doggy Dude Ranch Training Center in Petaluma? What a long name.
It's a long name, but you can just call us Dairydale Canine. Most people do.
Dairydale Canine.
That's
Is there
right.
anything else we need to know about your training center?
Well, I think a quick access to learn more is to go to my website, dairydale.com. See that short? That's easy.
Oh, good.
Dairydale.com. And on the home page, I lead a virtual tour of Dairydale. I'll take you all through the reception, the dog park, all of our special services, the boarding rooms, and that's very exciting. So dairydale.com. And for people who want to know more about training advice, my Dog Talk Diva blog is full of posts and interviews, dogtalkdiva.com.
Good.
And of course, the book is available at our local retail bookstores, Amazon.com, lipstickandtheleash.com.
through your website.
That's right. And I think you've got some others.
Also, locally in Sonoma County, you can get a copy at Lulu's near G&G Market in Santa Rosa.
Great.
In Petaluma, at the Apple Box.
Oh, at the Apple Box.
In Petaluma, the Lipstick and the Leash is always available there.
Great. Thank you, Jeannie, for helping with that.
I really thank you for joining us on WriterSpeak. Please check the Community Media Center's website for further episodes of WriterSpeak. And thank you to our sponsor, the Sonoma County Gazette.